Kylie.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. You're interviewing me. Thank you so much for joining us on the Arbitration Pitch. And we'd just like to find out a bit about you. How has your arbitration journey been?
Okay, so I hail from the small town of Ladysmith in KwaZulu-Natal. It's at the foot of the Drakensberg, so the views are unbelievable.
Great.
I was born and raised there, and then I went to university in KwaZulu-Natal in Pietermaritzburg, UKZN. So that's where I obtained my law degree.
Okay.
Following that, I then went to Johannesburg, and I was in another international law firm where I did my articles, and then after that I subsequently joined Baker McKenzie. I initially joined with the intention that I'd just be doing disputes, but general disputes like general litigation, mediations, and local arbitrations. But to my surprise, I got invited to be on a team that was doing an international arbitration. This was back in 2021. It was my first time, and I absolutely loved it.
Right.
And that's how I sort of got into the international arbitration space.
Oh, great. And how are you finding it?
I love it. I've been doing it now since 2021. I know it's quite a short period, but how much time do you really need to fall in love?
No.
So I've been loving it since. I find it exciting. I find it also one of those areas where you can constantly evolve, which is what I love about it. And yes, there's constant growth, development, things change and move, and also things are not always as set in stone in the same way they would be in our local judicial systems.
Right.
Which is what also makes it a bit exciting.
Great. So what are the different parts of arbitration you've experienced? Because you said there are different parts,
So by different parts, what do you mean? Like as in the different areas I've focused on?
Right.
Okay, so I have, from a local perspective, I've done arbitrations relating to banks. I've done arbitrations relating to monetary disputes or where we're requesting specific performance on an issue. Those ones are quite nice where you want specific performance, because 9 times out of 10 it doesn't always lead to the end of the contractual relationship. So there you kind of also need to balance what the client's needs are against what the contract says and against what end the client is trying to get to. So those have been quite interesting. And then I've also gotten to do some internationally, a few bilateral investment treaties, arbitrations. Those have been nice. And then also just general service provider agreement disputes, arbitrating on those. So it's been quite a nice variety.
Absolutely.
Yes, very exciting.
Yeah. So does arbitration look like an international form of litigation to you? Because I've heard people say that they prefer arbitration over mediation because they can't let go of the fighting spirits that litigation sort of instills or brings about, So even when they move to a more, a calmer way of resolving disputes, they still want to go a route that kind of gives them opportunity to cross-examine and do all those other things that I do in litigation.
Yes, so I definitely resonate with that fighting spirit. It sets my soul on fire. So I still love the opportunity to interrogate the facts of a matter. So I think that's why international arbitration is so intriguing. And also the stakes are generally higher. So you have a lot more to do. So you have to make sure you're consistently putting your best foot forward. And I think that's the nice part about it. You constantly have to challenge yourself, have to sort of understand exactly what the client needs. What are they trying to get? What resolution are we trying to get to here? Are we just using the arbitration as a means to strong arm the other side, or do we really want a decision? Are we trying to get our damages back? What are we trying to get from this arbitration? So I think that those kind of things that are at play make it so riveting for someone who enjoys litigation.
Right. Now, you mentioned that you started your practice in Joburg and now you're in London. How has it been revolving around different teams and different people, relating with them? How has it been?
It has been life-changing, actually, because one, our firm is very huge on collaboration, and it's not just something that's said, it's something that's lived. So from the time I started working at the firm, there was a big drive towards collaborating with others. And that collaboration initially started in my Joburg office, and then one day I just received an email from a partner in London. It was like, "Hi, would you like to assist on this matter?" And then that's kind of when my horizons were broadened. I literally, it was like, oh wow, okay. And then like you start interacting with them and you realize, actually, I can operate on this level as well. Like my training, what I've learned has equipped me to be able to handle these kind of matters. And then slowly but surely, as you start to gain trust, momentum, build those relationships, you start getting more and more work, and then that's when the relationship builds. And that's also how I ended up in our London office. Was through working with various stakeholders here that I got the opportunity to then come on this secondment and just spend like 3 months here. Essentially just reaffirming, building the relationship, and also making those connections. Because even though COVID has kind of changed the world into a more virtual place, people are more comfortable operating virtually. I don't think you can ever beat human connection and seeing someone, meeting them face to face. So that's also what I've been trying to achieve with being on the secondment chair. It's just to reconnect and make sure those relationships are in place so that I can get more access to the type of work that I want.
Amazing. Now, Kylie, I'm right?
Yes.
So Kylie, you're affable, you're expressive, you have a beautiful smile, and it's easy for people to kind of connect with you. But there are others who might find themselves in a space where they're a bit shy, reserved, unable to start a conversation. How can such people network? Because apparently networking leads to more work. So how could they do that so they also make the best out of the opportunities they have?
The first thing I would say to someone like that is, one, you don't have to be anyone but who you are. And it's very important for you to make networking something that you can manage. So I would recommend that they make it more personable and more one-on-one. So for example, if they want to work with me, they should just reach out to me and be like, "Hey Kylie, can we do XYZ? Can we set up some time, have a chat?" And kind of like they need to make the approach more palatable for themselves. Because if it's not in a way that they can manage, then they might end up feeling too overwhelmed and like, oh my gosh, networking is not something I can do. But sometimes you just need to make the task as simple as just taking someone for coffee, one person, and making that connection. And slowly but surely, if you keep doing that, your network will grow without you even making the effort. I mean, I don't think you need to always be the loudest person in the room or the biggest personality in the room to have the biggest network. Sometimes it's just about your interpersonal relationships that you have with people.
Right. And people go for conferences, so how do they translate what you've just said into the conference setting of about 1,000 people? I mean, ECA and all these other conferences where so many people from all over the world comes, and you feel like so many from all over the world come, and you feel like a drop in the ocean. Like, who am I? Imposter syndrome. Why am I here? How do they narrow down to make sure that they make the best of such opportunities?
I think with conferences like those, you actually have to be really intentional about the conference. One, why are you there? Two, what are you trying to achieve? And 3, what do you want to walk away with? So, for example, if you want to meet one of the head arbitrators and you want to just network with them, then you need to sort of carve out time as to when you can best approach them, get them to the side and have that chat. So instead of trying to network with everyone, you go with the purpose of speaking to a select few people so that it also makes the event less overwhelming for yourself.
Right.
And I think that's the best way of tackling it. You have to just go and speak to people individually, and you'd be so shocked how many people actually enjoy the one-on-one interaction as opposed to speaking to a random group of people that you don't necessarily know their names. Because when you interact like this, you also get to learn who is this person, what do they like this, and you actually tend to stand out more than if we were in a group of people.
Right. There are lots of young people, I think, who benefit from this, because we just love to make sure that we are at conferences and then we just rush through the crowd, and then before I realize we are back home and we didn't get much from it. So I think this is very practical. Now, you mentioned cornering or putting into focus at a conference a head of chambers or head of arbitration. Now, my question to you is, how can you make, as a young arbitration practitioner, how can you make the best of a mentor-mentee relationship? Because I know that some of these people are very busy, have little time, and sometimes you might be chasing them for months and they might not be able to respond to your mails and stuff like that. So how can you make sure that when you identify a mentor, maybe something you did, that when you identify a mentor, you follow through with the relationship to make it beneficial to both of you, mutually beneficial, that is?
Yes. So with my mentor, what I did was I actually made sure I was besties with her secretary, alternatively the person who manages her diary, because that person became my go-to. I would always be like, hey, when can I get time? And that person would be the one who would be able to tell me the best time and when I would have a period of time where there would be no distractions, because that's also important. I think if you want to get the best from your mentor in that relationship, you also have to speak to them kind of at a time when they're not distracted, when they can focus on what you want guidance on, what you want mentorship on, and they can be fully present in the moment. It doesn't help you go to your mentor during a 5-week trial, because you're literally not going to get the best of him. So it's always important, I think, to get in contact with the people who manage their diaries, because 9 times out of 10 people in very high positions have someone who are managing their diaries, especially from a professional perspective. So if you can contact that person, then you will be in the money, because that's when you will start understanding, okay, when can I see them, when can't I see them? And I think it's also with a mentor-mentee relationship, I think it's very important as a junior to not take it personal if your mentor is not available. Because I know some people feel like, this person doesn't think I'm important or not valued, and that's not always the case. Sometimes it really is just about time, and I don't think you should ever let that dishearten you. In the meantime, while you're waiting, make sure you're planning the session, so that you don't just come there unprepared. You know exactly what you want to talk about, what you want guidance on, and maybe like ideas that you have that you just want to bounce off someone with more experience. So it's very important for you to be intentional about your mentor-mentee relationship.
I'm glad that you've come to this part of the interview, because this is where I get to ask you to tell young arbitration practitioners, young yourself, about what you think they can do to have the best time in the arbitration practice, to have the best practice ever. So you can look at them and tell them something.
So firstly, I would say pay attention to detail. It is so important. Whether it's a small matter, a big matter, pay attention to detail. It's important to get the things right at a grassroots level so that they can then grow and develop. Secondly, I think I would say it's very important that you learn to take feedback, and take it for what it is. I know it's very easy to then impugn on yourself and think, oh my gosh, I'll never be good, I'll never make it, it's very easy to do that. Don't do that. Take the feedback for what it is. If someone has said to you, you need to pay more attention to detail, take it for that. Just pay more attention to detail. Don't start now kind of like deconstructing your character based on this feedback.
Right.
Because I find it's very easy to do that. Thirdly, I would say small steps at first. So just learn to walk before you start running.
Right.
Try not to bite off more than you can chew. Just take it all in, because obviously 9 times out of 10 it will be your first. Like, you haven't experienced something like this. It's new, and it's okay to feel overwhelmed. But small steps, achieve the little things, and then start building on that. And eventually you'll look a year down, 2 years later, you'll be like, I'm an expert now, you know, just because you kept on building and taking steps forward. That's very important. I think that would be my advice.
Well done. Thank you so much, Kylie. Now,
lastly, last one. Also, just give yourself grace.
Okay.
Give yourself grace to grow. Give yourself grace to become your vision of who you are. So just give yourself grace. That's the last thing, because I think I find as legal practitioners, we're often very hard on ourselves, especially when we make mistakes. So I think it's important to also give yourself grace in your journey.
Did you ever have imposter syndrome? How did you deal with that?
Yes, I'm not sure if it's something that ever goes away. It's kind of like a little voice that you often sometimes just need to silence, especially when you start getting given more responsibilities and more things start coming your way. Because that essentially means you've actually proven yourself here, and now you're getting pushed here. But now when you get here, you also feel like, oh my word, what if I can't do this? What if I don't belong? I think it's very easy to let that voice get louder and louder, especially because it's negative. And one thing about negativity, it's very consuming. But you also need to stand steady in who you are, know what you've done and how hard you've worked to get where you are, and just be proud of that. And so, the voice will always be there, but you have to learn to silence it. And I think each person has their own way of doing that. It has to be a healthy way, of course. But you have to know how to silence that voice and kind of just know that I'm here, I belong, and I deserve to be here. Because people wouldn't have put me here if they didn't think I belong. I could achieve.
Right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
So welcome.
You spoke about your love for arbitration, and I guess that's not the only thing you love doing. So share with us, what else do you love doing, or what else do you have a love relationship with apart from arbitration?
So I love belly dancing. I used to do it at varsity, and then I kind of do it like on an ad hoc basis every now and again now, but it's still something that I really enjoy. And then I'm also love playing netball. I've loved it since primary school days. I've just loved the sport, love watching it, love playing it, and it's still something I do even now. I'll be playing next week Tuesday for the first time.
Well done.
Thank you, with our London team. So I'm really excited about that. And I love music. Really love music. But I don't know if you can be South African and not love music.
No.
So I don't think so.
It's the culture, I guess.
Literally.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think those are 3 things that I really love.
Thank you so much, Kylie, for joining us on this interview.
It's a pleasure.
We can't wait to watch your career progression and how you just soared to the top. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.